I'm rolling with FD.
I am rolling with SD.
I'm rolling with FD.
I'm rolling with FD, baby.
We are rolling with FD.
I'm rolling with FD.
We got alphas and bros in the house.
That's right.
Peace out, my brother.
Woo! I'm rolling with the F to the D.
Learn something new every day when you're rolling with FD.
We are rolling with FD, baby.
I roll with one person, and that's FD.
I'm rolling with FD, baby.
You gotta love it, man.
Hey, Renee, who you rolling with?
Rolling with FD.
Amen.
Rolling with FD.
You don't have to ask. I'm rolling with FD.
My man, C. Bless. Who you rolling with?
I'm rolling with FD.
I'm rolling with FD.
That's how you just rolling, right? That's the whole thing, right? You roll with it.
I'm rolling with FD.
Manny and Jeremy, who you rolling with?
We're rolling with FD. We don't want to get our asses kicked.
My man, Dan, the card man. I appreciate you, dog. You gotta let the people know who you rolling with.
Well, obviously I'm rolling with FD.
I'm rolling with FD, baby.
Jason Cardboard is rolling with FD.
Rolling with FD.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How we doing out there? What's going on? I think I can see you. What's happening? I appreciate everybody for being here. Dustin should be here shortly. We got a few. Oh, he's here. Let me at him. What's up, man?
How are you?
What's going on?
Not much. How you been, dude? I haven't seen you since the National, I don't think.
Yes, we have. I haven't seen you since the National, right? Yeah.
Time flies. We're about, we're 3 or 4 months away from the next National, if you can believe it.
Yeah. Which is
it's crazy.
Are you headed to Cleveland?
Yeah, I think I might actually just drive it. It's a little bit of a hike. It's about 10 hours from North Carolina. Yeah, but then you're not dealing with airfare and all that stuff. Plus, it's not, from what I've never been to this venue, but from what I've heard, it's not like Chicago where it's right down the street, like right across the street to the hotel. You actually have to drive. So it's like, do I want to be fighting people for an Uber in Cleveland?
Oh, that's what I've heard as well. And if you want to do anything around there, if you want to go to the Football Hall of Fame or go to anything Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's a hike. So I think you smart move, man. Yeah. Before we kick this off, I want to say to you, I don't think I've ever said this. You were the first person that had me on a podcast talking to me about sports, cars, or anything else.
I didn't realize I was the first.
You were the first.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't realize that. I saw your stuff early on. I think that I subscribed at like 100 subscribers or something when I found you. Yeah.
I just want to tell you thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I try to look, if I see stuff that I like, I try to hook up and collab with, with people. You were bringing kind of a different theme to content, a different kind of way of doing the vlog stuff, the show vlog stuff, which I really liked.
Yeah. Thank you very much, man. Let's dive into it. I always start with origin stories. Tell people how you got interested in a hobby and involved in a hobby. What sparked your interest and when?
Yeah, I'm kind of the typical story, 87 to 94. I was born in 81. So age 6 to 13, 7 to 13 is really kind of the sweet spot for me. And especially I started with baseball cards, chasing Diamond Kings and hanging out with my dad, going fishing. It'd be like go get a moon pie and an RC Cola and grab a pack of cards, go fishing with my dad on Saturday mornings type thing. And that was the routine. And then we got into, 89, the 89 draft with Deion Sanders and Barry Sanders and Derek Thomas and, all those legends. And, so I got into football cards at that point. Also about the same time I discovered Beckett Magazine, and so it was just a big nostalgia thing for me coming back into the hobby. 2018 is when I started buying collectibles again, but it was I was slow coming into it. I didn't come in guns a-blazing, buying everything in sight. I was kind of getting back into it. That was the first time I'd seen graded sports cards, because it was 30 years since I had done cards. So I took my time with it. I was also buying graded comic books as well. So it was kind of a combination of different things. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the short version, but yeah, it's like a lot of people's story. I had it's I've got 4 kids like you. I'm a family man, so it's nice to kind of go back in time and think about when you didn't have as much responsibility. There's no internet, there's no cell phones that everyone's locked in on.
That's right. What made you want to start creating content? What sparked that?
So I started, there was a couple of people, but I'll use Jeff Wilson as an example. Going back to summer of, I think, 2019 is when he started, August, maybe July, August. Yep. And it was the first time I had seen, and I'd never really been on YouTube other than to fix the toilet or something. You look it up on YouTube, it's like the how-to stuff. Never really spent a lot of time on YouTube, but, I found his channel. And that was kind of the first time I saw someone that was talking collectibles, but in a way of kind of like buying and selling and, trying to kind of buy, sell, flip type content. I just wasn't seeing a lot of that. And maybe it just wasn't hitting my feed. But when I saw him and then I saw some others kind of pop up, I was never big into the breaking content, and I've never been into breaks or even opening packs now. Product is so expensive that I'm just not into it. I mean, I remember the days it's like buying a pack for $1 at the gas station, so the idea of paying $100, and that's a cheap hobby box nowadays. It's like, man, I'd rather just buy the single card. So, but as far as content goes, I started in back end of 2019, and then the pandemic hit March of 2020. I'd been talking to my wife for a few months about, hey, I'd really like to start making content. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'd like to do the YouTube thing. I've seen a few guys doing it, and I think it would be fun to just try it out and roll it out. And I was kind of just a talker for a little while. And then the pandemic hit, and it's kind of like, okay, I'm at home here for the next few weeks, with really not a whole lot to do. And so that's when I really dove in. Actually, March 22nd, so 18 days, it'll be 4 years when I started.
Congratulations.
And it was bad, man. You know how it is when you start out. I don't have any sort of broadcasting background. I don't have anything like that. I think it was more of trying to connect with other people that are into the same things. Like, are there other 40-year-old nerds out there like me, that are getting back into cards? And we found out that there are a lot. There are a lot of those people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how it got rolling.
Oh, we got Gabe Austin here saying, hi, Dustin. How are you doing today?
Hey, Gabe.
FT, I'm doing well. Good to have you here. Big John saying, what's up? Good to have you here, Big John, all the time. All the time. So I know you collect football. Tell the people who some of your favorite players are. I know a few, but let them know.
Yeah, I'm a longtime New Orleans Saints fan. I'm a season ticket holder now. It's funny. My wife and I, we started dating. It was like, the classic. We started dating 2009. They won the Super Bowl in 2009's 10 season. So I think she thought that's how it always goes. And she's learned since then that's not quite how it, especially for the New Orleans Saints. But, so Drew Brees, clearly the best New Orleans Saint that's ever played, and he's my main PC guy. Tom Brady is my other main PC guy, but he's kind of more of my GOAT. If you pick if it's Jordan, or I know for you, you're a big Steph Curry guy as a Warriors fan, or if you pick LeBron or whoever your guy is, you're kind of your GOAT player. Brady is for me just because I'm mainly a football card collector. So I would say I've got Breeze and Brady are my main guys, but I've got quite a bit of vintage as well. Hold on, let me see if I can grab this without knocking everything down, but I'm just grabbing something in front of me here. Bart Starr rookie, and I've got Unitas, and I've got some of the classic vintage football stuff. I also collect Hall of Fame autos. Again, not like tons of stuff, but just if it pops out, there's some nice Namath on. Namath's got such a great signature.
He does.
So I don't have 10 of them or anything, but I'll grab a couple here and there. And then I collect my non-sports stuff is Stranger Things. My whole family watches Stranger Things as the show. And so, and the kind of the story behind the story on that is 2016 is when that show came out, and it's got kind of that 80s theme to it. There's an 80s theme to that show and that's what kind of kickstarted the whole 80s nostalgia for me. So that's where it's kind of like it all comes full circle.
Right. So let's talk about football. I'm going to get back to Stranger Things. Mm-hmm. Why do you think you're a big Breeze fan? Why do you think certain quarterbacks don't get the same hobby attention as other quarterbacks? Because when I look at Breeze, exceptional guy. I remember he was in college, undersized. I'm from Chicago. Mike Alstott was, running in the Big Ten and doing this thing. And then here comes a guy named Breeze. Why do you think certain quarterbacks get love? They've won Super Bowls, they've had success, but they don't get the same love as others.
I think for Breeze, it's funny because the same reason I like Breeze, and I liked Breeze before he was a Saint. I liked him as a Charger as well. And I think it's ironic because if you compare Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees, there's way more hobby folks that like Aaron Rodgers over Drew Brees, and they have a similar resume. They've each got a touch. They each have a Super Bowl ring. Brees has got the yards, but he also has just played longer. So maybe between add a few more seasons to Rodgers, they might have equal stats. But it's actually the opposite for me. I actually appreciate the fact that Breeze is like my height. Like Breeze is like barely 6 feet.
That's
can
right.
barely see over the line of scrimmage and did what he did. Whereas I think, there's a lot of people that just like Rodgers because he's just more flashy and athletic. It's like he could make that 70-yard throw on a rope, to win the game or whatever. And he also won a couple of MVPs. But even like in the NFL, the MVP race to me, it's kind of a popularity contest. Breeze had some amazing seasons where he was just 7-9 because the defense was terrible. It's a total team sport. So so for Breeze, he's kind of like the guy I can relate to. It's like a regular guy. Another reason why I like Tom Brady a lot too, because Tom Brady, he's prototypical size, but look at his scouting combine. Like that's about as average of a dude as you can get. The only way that Breeze and Brady win games is with their brain. They weren't winning games because they were going to scramble out. If I look at Patrick Mahomes is extremely smart quarterback. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from him, but he can rely on his athleticism. When things break down, if he doesn't read something right, he can create and make something happen. Those guys couldn't do that. Those guys, like if they read it wrong, it wasn't going to work, so
very true.
I have respect for those guys, based on that. Is it not to take anything away from Mahomes, obviously, or some of the more athletic guys.
LP says here, Breeze gets forgotten like John Elway or Steve Young. I don't get it. Then he also adds, Press gets forgotten like Steve Young and John Elway. I think it is a lot of the intangibles. It's a lot of stuff you can't predict. You can look at a player and think about their ability, but how do they relate to fans? Like you said, what is their style of play? How do fans pick up on that? It's the same thing with basketball. There's some, if you're a guy who is above the rim, people are going to love you almost like you're hitting home runs in baseball. People are going to love you. So it's always interesting how that works out, though. But
Breeze might be like a Tim Duncan. Breeze might be like a Tim Duncan because you think about it, he's like the fundamental guy. Like Duncan was all fundamentals. Breeze, all fundamentals, but not flashy, not like he just wasn't, flash. And so maybe, I understand Duncan's got 5 rings, but, but hobby wise, it's just maybe it's a little boring for people.
Could be. So walk us through how you started collecting Stranger Things cards. I know you were interested in the show. It probably brought back some nostalgia from you growing up, but walk us through that.
So non-sports, Stranger Things in particular, and I'll also bring in some of the non-sports stuff just to kind of talk about it as a whole. For me, I was collecting autographs for Drew Brees is a great example, but there's a lot of players that fall into the bucket of they have a lot of autographs. And then you think about Brees is probably going to be signing for the next 30 years, maybe longer than that. I mean, some of these guys might have literally like a million different autograph cards, And so for some of the non-sports, I think what was fun about that is that there might be 4 or 5 sets total. Like for Stranger Things, that's really what it is. There's 5 sets. Mm-hmm. And when you look back, there's only so many autographs. For Stranger Things, Millie Bobby Brown is the main character.
Yeah.
And this is the 2018 is the first set that Topps came out with. And this is the blue parallel out of 10. And so in sports cards, of course, there's a zillion different parallels, with her, like for this autograph card, for example, you have green out of 50, purple out of 25, this blue out of 10, and then there's a 1-of-1 gold that no one's ever seen before. It's never popped up in an auction or anything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a fun chase, and I understand it's not the same as buying a sports card, but the thing I like about it is it's kind of like chasing a PMG Jordan in the sense of like scarcity. Mm-hmm. From just a scarcity standpoint, there might be, there's a total of, 86 or 80 autographs from that first set, that you can get. And there's some parallel autographs as well, but the main point is that like there's like 100 cards that exist in total, and so that makes it kind of a fun chase, for those types of things. And so that's why I just kind of added it in. And then also the price point. The price point is just not as high as sports cards.
Hey, I like it. I think a lot of people in the hobby that I talk to collect other stuff. Either they started with Pokemon, and they're still with Pokemon, or they get into other TCG. It's a part of the hobby.
Yeah.
I got another question for you. So PSA and SGC are now owned by the same parent company. So when this was announced, a lot of people hit me up. I'm pretty sure people hit you up as well, asking, "Hey, what do you think about this?" So I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to say what I'm thinking. What do you think about this?
I was a little bit surprised, to be honest, because I don't know why in my mind I just thought it would probably be Fanatics that would be the one that comes in and buys them. And I don't know why I just didn't think of collectors. It makes a little bit more sense now when you kind of just process it.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting play. It's an interesting business move. And I guess there's just a lot of uncertainty around it as far as how are they going to work together? What will it look like down the road? I know there's a lot of speculation. I'm actually kind of on the other side of this take. There's a lot of speculation that SGC is going to go away, that they're going to sell it for parts, or
Mm-hmm.
or just kind of break it up. And I'm more on the other side of, I think they're probably more motivated to keep SGC viable and to keep them growing.
Mm-hmm.
For a couple of different reasons. And the main one just being that if you look at the other competitors, the big ones, it's CGC and it's Beckett, and both of those companies are not grading many sports cards.
No.
And so if you remove SGC from the equation and it's just, hey, it's PSA, then I don't know how the hobby reacts to that, because there will always be, of course, there's a lot of people that love to grade with PSA, but there's also going to be some people that will never grade with them.
Exactly.
And so you're trying to, so there might be some unintended consequences there, and so I actually do believe, I read Nat Turner's statement and he said, hey, we respect what they're doing. We also understand that not everyone wants to grade with PSA. This is a viable alternative, and they've really gained ground, solid product and all that. Everything that he said, unless they completely do a 180, is that they're going to keep them going and keep SGC rolling along. Now, how that looks and what that looks like and the execution, that's the part we just don't know anything about.
Yeah, we don't know, and that part may evolve. So I look at this as two different things at first. I thought quickly, we know they make, I even told someone of this, they make different Ford automobiles. They make different Teslas that we see on the road. No one questions that. No one's thinking like, why is there more than one Ford running around? I looked at grading companies the same way, right? And so then when you look at PSA and SGC, they do similar stuff as far as sports cars, but their go-to, if you want to grade a vintage car, you're probably not sending it to PSA, right? And also, if you want to grade some, like I was just in line at the Burbank Card Show, and I'm talking to a guy who's breaking out a bunch of Pokemon. He's probably not sending that to PSA.
Yeah.
So he's going to send it to Beckett, or he might send it to SGC. So I feel like those companies do different things, and they're at different price points. So they accommodate a lot of different people. So when you add them together under one umbrella, there's less cannibalization than a lot of people may think that there is. And there's more of a fit as an overall grading business going forward than others may think as well. So it made sense to me. Like when I first heard about it, I was like, I could see that happening. I know the question came up, well, how do you cross cars? If I have an SGC card, can I cross it to PSA? And how's that grading scale? I think they're going to keep that same grading scale. Everything I've heard about is them keeping business going as usual. SGC put out a comment this morning about really just more dollars coming into SGC from the parent company, allowing them to do more, hire more people, do more as far as the infrastructure, how they grade, things like that. To me, it's like one of the best fits that I think could have came about, but it sparks the question, what is Beckett going to do?
Yeah.
And how do we keep going forward, Dustin, and we don't hear from Beckett?
I know. It's like, who's behind the wheel? Is anyone behind the wheel? Yeah.
Yeah, say something. We got SGC talking. We got Nat talking. at least come to the people and say something and show that you care. Even when you go to the booth, they kind of move you through. When you're at the show, they're moving you through. PSA, the time that I spent time with them at different shows, it's more of a conversation. And you may even get somebody at PSA, and it's not because I'm FD. They may even walk you through the process a little bit, or take you to the side and explain how this is going to work. And I just want to see more from Beckett because I grew up on Beckett, man.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. Yeah, it just feels like when I listen to Dr. Beckett, and I've done a few different things with Dr. Beckett, it just feels like a totally different company. Like we're remembering Beckett magazine, and we're long away from those days, and I think that's the sad part. I kind of wonder too with there's been talk that collectors is going to move on from golden auctions, that's going to be resold or something's happening with it. Yeah. Of course, it's just rumor mill stuff now, but when you see this and you're trying to put two and two together, you also kind of wonder too, is collectors going to really kind of focus mainly on grading and just be really, really good at that, as opposed to, Fanatics is buying up little pieces everywhere, and kind of being a jack of all trades, but kind of a master at nothing, because that's what happens. Mm-hmm. I'll just be curious to see if collectors, do they acquire other auction houses, or are they just going to sit tight and just focus on grading, make that as good as it can be? Because look, grading, there's a lot of different ways that they can increase security and make sure that, there's less counterfeit, fake cards, and all the stuff that's getting through. There's a lot of work to be done on the grading side. So maybe they're just saying, you know what, we're just going to make grading amazing. That's the goal. That's going to be collector's goal. We're going to focus on grading and let Fanatics or let these other companies, because also too, just the whole, how many auction houses are there? There's a zillion auction houses. I mean, I don't know, if you're looking to acquire one, it's just, I don't know. And I don't know the dollars and cents of it, but it just feels like there's a lot of players in that space. So it might be maybe we just don't want to bother with it.
I think you're absolutely right, because SGC this morning talked about putting more research and development into stopping counterfeiting, or trying to eliminate it or pull back on it. So I think there is, what you're saying, there's going to be more dollars put into things to understand the science behind grading and spending more time on that. It's going to be exciting to see, Dustin.
I know, it's going to be good.
Because we go back 20-something years, I say this all the time, and Beckett in the marketplace, a Beckett slab had more premium on it than a PSA slab.
I've heard about that. I wasn't back in, but I've heard a lot of people say that. I wasn't involved in the hobby in the early 2000s, but I have heard of people cracking PSA 10s to try to get a BDS 9.5.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. That was the deal, and that's why you see Jordans and all these cards from back then in a Beckett slab. People really wanted it. Nobody wanted a PSA back then, and the PSA slabs didn't have the hologram on them and all that, and you couldn't really look them up, so they were being counterfeited more. There were bogus cards being put in slabs, and the call out up top was just a piece of paper that was usually wrinkled with any form of humidity. So a lot of stuff has changed. When people hear that now, they're like, "What?" But a lot of stuff has changed in the hobby, and I think as we go forward with grading, we'll see even more changes. Where you'll probably look back at 2024 and think, "Man, prices now are totally different," or what these companies are doing now is totally different.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm optimistic that, there's going to be change for the good. I know when people look at this, they think consolidation and grading. I don't like it. I don't like one company kind of owning the majority of grading. I understand that sentiment. I understand kind of it's not, the non-competitiveness of it, oh man, they don't have a major competitor. At the same time though, there's a hope, I think that, hey, I think they want to make advancements. They want the product to get better, because the other thing that they have to worry about as well is even PSA that's grading a zillion cards a month is if people lose confidence in grading as a whole because of counterfeits, because of fakes. I don't care if they're grading 1 million a month. It doesn't matter if they don't have competition, because no one's gonna want the service. It's gonna go back to, so they'll have a different problem. So my hope is that they're focused on just making the product, the process better.
We got Chris K here, says he knows you.
Oh, what's up, Chris? Good to see you, man.
All right. We got Papa Johnson, our Monday night rolling. Thank you for being here, Papa John. I can't wait to actually meet you at a show one day. It'll be good. We got Machado here saying sub up, chat, tell a friend. We almost at 4K. Thank you very much.
Man.
Thank you very much. So in this, we talked about quarterbacks earlier. In this Patrick Mahomes era, do you see another quarterback really having success? Is Herbert? I know he's got a lot of change. He's got a new coach, probably new offense, going to have a probably new running back. Will Burrow? Will some of these quarterbacks actually get something done?
I think the problem with answering that is I don't know. And you tell me, I mean, I don't think there's ever been this much QB talent in the NFL. I think I said this last year.
Since the early 80s, maybe 83, 84. Not since then.
But even going back then, I mean, I feel like every team, I mean, look at Chicago, for example. I mean, Chicago is probably going to take Caleb Williams.
Yep.
And Justin Fields it's not like he's awful. You know, I mean, it's not like he can start somewhere else. It's not like back in the 80s, at least look, I'm talking about my Saints and we're talking about a lot of teams in the 80s. Yes, Marino and Montana, and you had some really, really great talent, but then there was a pretty good drop off. There was probably 10 teams that were, I wouldn't say they had a franchise quarterback going back then. But nowadays, I can't think of one team, and even out of this draft. So, okay, it's the Patriots or, you know, some of the, you know, the Commanders, they're going to pick a guy, and it might not be the franchise person, but they're going to pick someone that they're going to be excited about as being kind of that next franchise QB. So I think with Mahomes, and I think it kind of speaks to how amazing I think Mahomes' run is if he can continue it, because it's just getting better, it feels like. You know, quarterback play, and they're also protecting quarterbacks differently now than they did in the 80s, of course.
Yeah.
So guys can come out and have some success. You know, I'm not saying that it's not easy by any stretch. Defenses are incredible, but I mean, there's just so much QB talent, and that's really kind of the next phase for Mahomes. He's got 3 titles. You know, Brady had 3 titles at the same age, and then it took 10 years to get the next one.
Yeah.
You know, how's that going to look for Mahomes? Is he going to finally hit some adversity? I feel like this guy's just like, and I'm not saying he hasn't earned his championships. I'm not saying that, but he hasn't had a big injury. You know, I know he's been nicked up, but, you know, Brady tore an ACL, was out for a year. You know, I mean, there was adversity there, and I feel like the Chiefs have really done a good job of avoiding it. But, you know, it's going to get interesting. Now he's making big money too. You know, now he's making, I think he's the highest paid player in the NFL or close to it.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's salary cap stuff you got, you know, to deal with that they did not have to deal with going back, you know, a few years. So it's going to be really interesting to watch. He's incredible, but, you know, I'm one of those guys. I don't know how you feel about this, but I pulled for Mahomes early, but then once you start winning a few, my only exception to this rule is Jordan in the 90s, because I was a Bulls fan going back to when the Pistons were beating them, and I like the fact that Jordan got 6 rings. But in the NFL, unless it's my Saints getting 6 rings, if you start winning 2 or 3, I'm ready for somebody else.
Oh wow, I heard that.
It's like anybody but the Chiefs next year. For me, it was anybody but the Chiefs this year. Next year, now it's like, please God, anybody but the Chiefs. So
yeah, I think. For me, Mahomes and Kelsey make it difficult to root for them.
Yes.
Yeah, they start doing some stuff, and I wouldn't, because I don't like using the word arrogance. It's just the way they carry themselves sometimes. It's just like, can I see somebody else right now? But I've always vowed to never hate on someone because they're winning. Those 2 guys just make it difficult.
It's what happened to me this year. I didn't really care. I was kind of like, yeah, I'm fine with them. And then when they complained after losing that one game in the regular season, when they get a lot of calls, the Chiefs get a lot of calls and non-calls that go their way. And then that, and the fact that every commercial, you know, I'm not going to say the Taylor Swift thing, because that's kind of an answer. It's not really her. It's more of just the annoyance of it being such, like, you know, it's just so much of it. But then also, every other commercial is a State Farm commercial with these guys in it. Every single commercial. And I'm like, I just can't. I'm over it. I'm over these guys.
It's funny. Talk to us about, let's talk about some people don't like to use the word market, but the sports card market or the card market. So you got 2024, we got the remainder of the year in 2025. What do you kind of see as some trends or some things that you've noticed that are shifting in the market, or what do you see the market going?
So the one I've been doing kind of, you know, just kind of dink and dunking, buying Tom Brady, buying Drew Brees stuff, you know, as it pops up and staying really focused there. actually spent quite a bit of money over the last couple of months. We're just talking about a trend.
Yeah.
On this quarterback class with Bowman U and Onyx rookies and this Drake May. I did not buy Caleb Williams because
I was going to ask you about Caleb Williams. Go ahead.
I'm not a huge fan of Caleb Williams, and it's nothing personal. It's just it's just like all the things are adding up. And actually, I think I saw your post on IG about it. It's just like, man, there's no like humility. I don't know. There's just, people are saying he's like Mahomes, and I'm just like, I think you're reaching a little bit, you're reaching a lot, but just I don't know. I don't like just some of the stuff that I'm hearing. And so, but also his stuff is very expensive. It's like everyone's kind of put their money into Caleb Williams. He's going to be the number 1 overall pick. So I've actually, over the last couple of months, I probably I'm going to guess maybe $3,500 into Bowman U, some Leaf stuff. Okay. I've been going kind of along that train, buy it raw. I'm going to grade it out. I've got a bunch of cards that are out for grading, and I'm just going to try to, it's honestly too, it's kind of like this draft is really fun for me. Like this whole, like what's going to happen. We've got like 6 QBs that could go in the first round. Like it's insane. I've got some Penix Jr. stuff. I've got like all these different guys, Bo Nix, but their autographs, those Bowman U autographs are some of like $50 for like numbered autos. And they might be the only autos, that these guys have for a while. Now I know Penix has got a Panini deal, so maybe there's Penix stuff. But my point is that it could be 6 to 9 months before these guys have any other autos outside of this Bowman U stuff. And I'm just thinking like, you know what? I'd like to go to the National and be like, I'm always the guy at the National with all the stuff that nobody wants. I want to be the guy one time that's got like, oh, he's got some of these like spec quarterbacks, so. Yeah. And I just decided, kind of going back quickly to the, which quarterbacks, that's really my issue is that you can make a case for any, like 30 out of the 32 teams have QBs that can win if everything aligns. Like if good draft schedule, everyone stays healthy. So I see in the chat, Josh is talking about Kyler Murray, and one of my buddies, Steve, has bought and sold some Kyler Murray stuff. It's worked out well for him because it looks like they're either going to get a top flight receiver. It looks like. Yeah, so for Kyler Murray, it's, I think people are banking on that. But anyway, going back to your trend, I think especially with all the nil deals, I think that actually there's some runway for college products, whereas there used to not be. I'm a little bit late to the game on this. I know that there's a lot of people that have already kind of gotten in and done some spec on these guys, but I think there's actually some runway for the college stuff. I mean, when Arch Manning has got cards going back, he hasn't even started. Like there's guys that are signing Panini deals that have never even played a college snap yet. So, I mean, if the spec moves down the chain a little bit to where it's a little bit more like baseball prospecting, where people are buying quarterbacks. I've been buying some of the college guys coming up too, just kind of some of the, the Penn State QB, Alar. I've been looking at guys that are like, who's projected to be a number 1 pick next year? And they've got autographs for $30, so it's like, why not? Why not throw some money at this just for fun, see what happens? So that's been my little kind of my spec play. I haven't spec'd in a little while, but yeah, so it's been fun.
That's a smart move because there will be a longer runway. You got guys in product that won't have an autograph, but they have an autograph from that. And
those aren't, I'm sorry to interrupt you. To be clear, not long-term holds, just like buy and flip type short-term
I knew
stuff.
that. Yep.
Okay.
That's good to clarify for people.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of knew that. But it's also good in Bowman U that you get a chance to see players in other sports and see what else is going on.
It's
so
funny.
I'm going to ask you about Caitlin Clark. I know you've been following Caitlin Clark.
I was just about to say that. I was like, actually, the real money was in Caitlin Clark cards the entire time. Like if you got in early on Caitlin Clark cards, you're probably doing better than anything else.
True. She's a real player. I think she's going to be instrumental in how the WNBA is marketing the sport and what they're doing with it. And Sabrina, as we know, coming out and shooting against Steph has also been instrumental. I don't know about you, Dustin, but I'm more looking forward to March Madness on the women's side than I am the men's side.
It's so bad too, because I used to watch a lot of college basketball and get into it and all that. And I've just been such a lame-o. Like I don't even follow it. I have no idea what's going on.
I haven't watched the game this season.
And you're a basketball guy. So
but South Carolina just went undefeated. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
They're going to go into the tournament hard, and they went undefeated last year.
Yeah, I went and watched. So I'm in Raleigh. I went and watched NC State women's game, and it was entertaining. I mean, it was fun. The one thing I think that Caitlin Clark. So for the WNBA, we've been we've been talking about this forever. It's kind of like, is it ever going to really be? I don't want to say relevant because it's not the right word, but it's just there has to be more entertainment value. It's just not quite there. But I think they have to get away from. Dominant centers and power forwards and that sort of thing. Caitlin Clark brings that shooting aspect. And look, Steph Curry is not, I know he can dunk the basketball, but it's the 3-point, like raining threes that's really become popular in the NBA. So why wouldn't that be the case in the WNBA as well? Like that would be a way to make it exciting. You have a bunch of sharpshooters. That would be a way to really, and it seems like it's trending that way.
And it's a way, as we saw with Sabrina, shooting better than anybody in the men's 3-point contest.
Yeah.
To have more competitive events between both leagues, where you could do something in WNBA All-Star game, or you could do something in an NBA All-Star game and invite players in, and then cross-market the sports themselves. I think, and with these players being so young, they have years to do this.
Yeah, I hope that it sparks kind of the fundamentals of shooting the ball. That's really that's going to be, I think, what really propels the WNBA. Because the NBA is just a 3-point shooting contest every night.
That's all it is, and that's why the All-Star game has become 3 and no D. You just have to shoot 3, and whoever can shoot the most of them and hit them wins.
Wemby's 7'4", throwing up threes. Porzingis. These guys, like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's 5 guys that can shoot the 3.
Yeah,
it's incredible. But
Justin, I know you don't talk a lot of basketball, but what do you think of Wemby?
Well, to be fair, too, I've watched maybe a game, of him this year, but I think he's going to be great. It's just the fact that, of course, it always boils down to, can he stay healthy? Can he add a little bit of size? Or maybe he doesn't add size and he's more of a KD type player. KD's had a long, great career and he's tall and thin. So, but Wemby, what he's doing in very few minutes, really, he's not playing full games. I think he's impressive. He's really impressive.
To me, the only question about him is future health. I don't question his game at all.
Right. No, totally. And I guess I wonder if there's certain, and it's just the issue too is that he actually plays defense. He's trying to block. He blocks. He's trying to play, which to me is kind of like, again, we're talking about the health part. That's what concerns me a little bit. If he was a guy that just runs up and down and just kind of like plays offense, but he actually is down low and playing D, which he can't. He could get rolled up really easily. Part of it's luck, obviously, just playing basketball, but, hopefully he can, add a few pounds on kind of in the right places, not Zion pounds, but add on, a few pounds just in the right spots to hold up. I like him.
Machado says Wemby is a cheat code. They're going to have to implement rules because of him. They probably will. It looks like they had Shaq, certain things you couldn't do against Shaq and all that. Probably so. It'd be interesting to see how he develops. So I was looking at records. They San Antonio has the potential to have, I think, 7 more wins this year, 7 to 9, compared to last year. That's an increase. But they got to get some talent on that team and help him get further along. Is he going to get to the play-in? Those are the kind of things you got to start talking about. So,
yeah, but they're so, you think too, like, and we're always so quick to, to come in and, when is he going to win? I've heard this so much, like Wemby's never going to win a title. This is a kid. Like, this is a kid that just came into the league. Jordan wasn't winning a title with the Bulls. The Bulls were awful. The Bulls, like, watch those documentaries. Half the guys were doing drugs.
Yeah,
like,
they were horrible.
the Chicago was as bad as it gets. And, it just took add a few pieces. Wemby just needs a few pieces. And then also, LeBron and Steph and these guys that have just been winning for a long time, they're going to retire at some point. And then it's kind of that next wave of these young players.
Talk a little bit about, because I've been in conversations about, I want to hear your thoughts with some people about, I call it the microwave days. Like now we expect because LeBron came into the league and started scoring 20 points a game, we expect for quarterbacks Caleb Williams to come out, hit the field, and just throw 20 touchdowns and 5 interceptions a season and roll to the playoffs. Talk a little bit about, to me, the lack of respect. This is how I would put it. I don't know how you would put it, for the development of a player.
Yeah.
And now we want them to just be successful Pro Bowlers and future Hall of Famers just from day one. Just speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of makes me think of like Troy Aikman is a great example of this. If you go back to 89, 90, I mean, he was pretty bad for a couple of seasons. And then they added pieces around him, and he I think it was the third year before he actually looked like an NFL quarterback. I mean, so nowadays, though, yeah, you're right. I mean, you don't have 3 seasons to figure it out. I mean, if you're the number 1 overall pick, you probably have 3 seasons. If you're the number 1 overall pick, or maybe you picked, top 5 pick. But I mean, there is a very short runway, and it's amazing too. Teams just reaching on QBs. Chicago, again, we'll use that as an example. And I'm not saying that Fields is Tom Brady, but that, he's never had really pieces around him. It's not as if he's had a team around him to where you could properly assess.
Yeah.
He's
had coaching changes. He's had player personnel changes. He can never get settled on what he's doing.
So I think part of it is it's kind of luck. And actually too, I don't necessarily blame, people and myself included. I think it's a little bit of, kind of a diva move to say like, oh, I'm not playing for that team. Like Eli Manning, I'm not playing for the Chargers.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, put yourself in their shoes. If it's an organization that you feel like will not put a team around you, maybe for certain circumstances, I'm not saying that you should, like you have to pick like a top 5 team or whatever, but there might be just certain organizations where you're just like, I can't go there, or I'm just screwed, like my career is over. So maybe certain, organizations, but I don't think the Bears are one of them though. I actually think the Bears are going to be good. They're going to, I think they're going to put some things together. Yeah. I think they're going to get an elite receiver at 9, or they're going to get a tackle. I mean, they have 2 top 10 picks, and they're not awful as it is. So I think I'm not saying they're going to be a playoff team, but I think they're going to be in pretty good shape.
I always wonder where Marvin Harrison Jr. is going.
Well, I mean, the mock drafts have quarterbacks 1, 2, 3, and he's going to Arizona at 4. I don't know. They keep going back and forth with the Patriots. I would struggle not taking a guy like that, because especially, and I'm so biased, I think, because of his dad. It's like, if he's anything like his dad, then you have to take him. You have to take him and figure out quarterback later. Everyone's so quick you got to get that quarterback. Look, half these guys aren't going to be in the league in 5 years.
They won't. It's the roughest position to probably play in professional sports, and I don't think the average person realizes that.
I know people think this is absolutely stupid and crazy, but I would run it back with Mac Jones if that was the only option. If that was it, I know people say like that's crazy. Their team last year was really bad. I mean, I'm not, again, like Mac Jones, wasn't Mac Jones rookie of the year, or didn't he make a Pro Bowl his rookie year or something?
Yeah, he did.
And I'm not saying he hasn't regressed. I'm not saying he's the guy, but I'm just saying if it's, we're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. and we might have one more year without a quarterback, then fine.
But Dustin, I think you're spot on, because I've already read some stuff about them running it back with Mac Jones. And the thought was that Belichick couldn't coach these young quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So people are already saying that they don't think Mac Jones is as bad as the rap he's received. I've noticed that when I watch a game, if he stays within the system, if he stays like Brock Purdy, if he stays within the system, I'm going to ask you about Brock Purdy in a minute. If he stays within the system, throws the pass that he's supposed to throw, reads the players he's supposed to read, I don't think Mac Jones is bad. When he tries to start doing extra stuff, It's when he's throwing interceptions and starting to look real horrible. So I think if they can design something for him and have him stay protected at all times, throw the ball 15, 20 times a game, and establish a run game, you might see a different Mac Jones. And I'm not telling people to go buy Mac Jones, but you never know.
Yeah, it's amazing what a weapon. Like if you have Marvin Harrison Jr., whether that's Kyler Murray or if it's any of these guys, I mean, you give Mac Jones, Kyler or Marvin Harrison Jr. and see what happens. I mean, who did Mac Jones have to throw to last year? I can't think of one.
I can't think of too many. I can't name receivers.
Yeah, I can't think of one.
No.
So,
and it's like that out there. And for everybody out there who hasn't watched Marvin Harrison Jr., what makes him so great is that he's a very large receiver that runs like he's about 5'8". He can turn his hips and run routes that a guy his size just does not run. So,
yeah, I know you don't want to say like can't miss prospect, but it feels like he's a can't miss guy unless he's hurt. But I mean, also his attitude is good. Like he's not like, I don't know. I would unless you really badly need a quarterback. I don't know. And even so, I'm not sure I think I would take Marvin Harrison Jr.
I can't wait to see where he goes and start looking at his cards. And
how do you feel about no Belichick and no Pete Carroll and no Vrabel? Like there's some pretty big name coaches that are not coaching this year.
I think the NFL is changing. And I think I hate to say this, and people may react a certain way to it. I say the same thing about college basketball. There's a disconnect between generations when you start talking about a guy who's 22, 23, 25, 26, and his coach is like 63 years old. I think how they talk to each other, what they hear, how one was raised, maybe how the other was raised, there's just a disconnect. And I think these coaches with these NIL deals and all that, they're starting to get very frustrated, and it's time to move on. Because you could tell Alabama during the national championship game, Saban was very upset with his quarterback. It's just like, what are you doing? Like I've been coaching for years. I can't get it through to you to do this. I think I already got 7 under my belt. Probably need to go find something else to do with my time. I can commentate. There's other ways I can connect myself with the game. There are more ways now to connect yourself with a sport that you used to play than actually playing the sport. So why not just go do that? And I think that was the same way with Coach K at Duke.
Yeah.
How many guys can you recruit that come in and play 1 year and then they're gone? That's got to be like frustrating. When you had Grant Hill around for 4 years, Christian and Bobby Hurley for years, it eats at you. So the sport itself has changed. And there was a football coach recently that talked about a kid came in his office. I forgot he was at a D1 program. Kid sat down and said, if I don't get this amount of money, I'm out. I'm transferring.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point. When I'm talking about Caleb, we're talking about Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams has already made $10 million, so he hasn't got before he steps foot in the NFL. So you are almost coaching NFL players. I mean, they're getting paid like NFL players.
Yeah.
So maybe that's an adjustment too. I mean, in the college ranks.
And you got to think a lot of these guys are getting paid more than their coaches.
Yeah.
So you're telling me to run my route harder. You're telling me I need to live. You're telling me. It's just a different game now, literally, than what it has been in the past. And I think it's eating at some people. So, like, to answer your question, you're going to have some guys that's going to continue that are even growing to be legends that probably going to leave early.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's going to be weird. And, it's hard too. I think, what was it, the LSU basketball player where she kind of went off, they won the title. I think she made a couple $1 million. And then she kind of was like, not, the coach was kind of calling her out and stuff. Reese, I think.
Yeah, Reese. Reese, yeah.
And at first I was like, man, that's, why should, that's BS that she's doing that. But then I'm thinking like, yeah, but she's like 19 or 20 years old. Like I've got a 20-year-old. And if you gave her $2 million, she'd be a pain. She's already a pain, let alone with $2 million.
That's right.
So, I mean, I just think it's going to be something coaches are going to have to adjust to.
Jordan Brown is excited about Sam Howell, Washington. Okay. Marvin Harrison going number 1. What else we got here? I would take the sure thing. What's up, Zerny? What's going on? Jordan says, "Yeah, FT, you're correct on Mac Jones. Yeah, I don't think he's bad. I from one point in the season, I thought it was horrible, but then I actually started sitting down and try to give him benefit of the doubt and looking at his game, and then we will see. Are you excited for the March Madness at all? Are you watching the men's at all?
I'll probably watch some of it, yeah. But to be honest, I have not.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it, so it's going to be just playing catch up and trying to figure out the storylines and that sort of thing. I'll watch some of it, but I have no idea what's going on.
Just from where you sit right now, when I say NBA basketball, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
It just all scoring, no defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're just like we're like the old timers that are just.
We are.
But there's a lot of people that really enjoy today's game. So I know that maybe it's just me, or maybe it's just like us, but I don't know. I grew up watching, it'd be 89 to 85 and you battled it out and, you could actually hit guys and it wasn't a foul. I don't know. It's just gotten a lot more scoring heavy, which again, maybe that's what the next generations, want, but yeah, it's tough. It's so different though. I mean, the shooting though, now granted there's a lot of guys that are just chucking up threes and they're shooting 35% from three or something, but there's just so many scorers now, so many prolific scorers. And I think part of that is the no defense, but then also I just think that there's just guys that have been, I think it's almost like the Steph Curry effect, to some degree, or the Michael Jordan effect or LeBron. Guys are really training to score the ball as opposed to sliding their feet and making sure they're in the right spots and playing defense. Well, now it feels like the NBA, it's kind of like you got your defensive enforcer specialists like Draymond, for the Warriors, or, Rodman for the Bulls, but yeah, it's a scoring fest.
Yeah, you got a lot of guys shooting, a lot of guys not shooting well. And it seems like these organizations are giving guys the green light to do what they want to do. Well, you wouldn't see that before. You got guys taking shots early in the shot clock. You wouldn't see that before. Cross the midcourt line, jacking up a three. Everybody's trying to get at least a piece of their foot on the logo so they can get a highlight reel going on ESPN. It's just a different day. But I keep telling people over and over again, though, whoever wins the championship is going to have to play some defense. It's going to be a sad day if we get to, in the NBA, people winning championships and then are still not playing defense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder too, what was it? The Cavs and the Mavs game where the Cavs shot the game winner. The guy scored 12 points on Luka in the last minute,
Yeah.
And the Cavs won the game. And it's if you're Luka, you have to look at that and be like, damn, I've got to get better on defense. My guy can't score 10 points in 60 seconds to finish the game. I'm not talking about the last shot where the guy chucked it up.
I know what you mean. You're talking about the ending of the game.
The ending of the game. And I understand, people were ripping on Luka because on that last shot, Luka kind of throws his body or whatever. Look, if a guy's going to hit a 50-foot jumper, you're not going to defend it. Maybe he try to get in his way, but it was the baskets before that were the problem. It was it was the few baskets leading up that were the issue. And it's just, but Luka's not in, I'm just going to use him as an example. There's other guys like this. They're not in shape to play both sides of both ends. They're just not.
So why do you think that is? It blows my mind. Why do you think that is?
LeBron's 40. How old is LeBron? He's
39.
He's almost 40 years old, and he is in shape. Whether he can do it at the same minutes and all that stuff, whatever, but he is in shape to play both ends. Yeah. And that's the part where it's just if you're 23, what's your excuse when you're up against 39-year-old LeBron and you can't get back on defense? I mean, I don't know.
I got a question here from Zerny, FD and Dustin. Would you encourage your son or daughter to go early to the league if they had the opportunity? I would. What do you think? I have an answer to that.
Yeah, I guess it's all situational. Probably depends on your kid, but I think, you said go early to the league. Nowadays, if you look at some of the college players, like I said, Caleb Williams has already made $10 million.
Mm-hmm.
If he or she has already made a few $1 million or $5 million, I guess you have to kind of weigh the you weigh it all. If it's me, I probably advise to go to the league and then finish your degree in the off season.
That's the same thing I would say.
Yeah.
But if my kid left early, I'm packing my bags. April's packing her bag. We're going to be there.
Right. Yep.
And we got to have that agreement that is necessary. I would feel horrible if I sent my kid off and say, yeah, chase your dream and be financially secure, and they can't handle everything that's going to come to them. Yep. So when I was 17, 18 years old, I'm about to go to college. I want to play football, Division II school. And my father sat me down and asked me, did I know what I was going to see when I got there? So I was like, oh, yeah, I'm in class, and I'm going to play football. And he's like, no. He starts breaking down. When you're a player, okay, everything that's going to come to you as a player. It's going to be a lot of stuff you're not asking for, but it's still going to be presented to you. And he went step by step by step by step. Everything that's going to happen. And Dustin, when I got in college, definitely the first 2 years, most of it happened within the first 9 months. Everything that he's described is what I saw.
Yeah.
And my father was a guy who played football in college, played running back. He was a very good running back. And he went to a junior college only for like one season. It's a bunch of stuff that I don't even think he experienced himself. Yeah. But he broke it down to me. So when I saw it, it's the power of parenting to me. One example, because my mom did a lot of stuff too. When I saw it, I was like, man, he described this like he was sitting here, like it was futuristic thinking. He actually knew, so he prepared me. So I would have to have conversations, just like I already do right now, know more about them and how they make decisions when I'm not around. And then also I got to be there to in my mind, to try to help with the situation. Because I'm just a guy at Division II school playing ball. I'm talking about somebody making millions a year. And what I think we all underestimate as average civilians is the power of influence and how people are introduced to people. If Zion Williamson goes somewhere, there are people that are introducing him to people that we'll never know about.
Right.
And his circle is growing. It could be growing in a poor manner.
Right.
He could be growing in the best way possible. He has to make that decision. And then I go back to, like, if you watch the movie Air about Michael Jordan, I know that story. The development of the shoe, how Michael was paid, his first contract with the Bulls, how he dressed in press conferences, everything. His parents had a hand on that.
Yeah.
And so now you got guys who are making way more than he was making, and there's no one there to help them and help guide them and give them instruction. And a lot of people, like you got Lamar Jackson, his mom is his agent, negotiated a $200+ million deal. And people don't want to give her any credit, but she's there to help him. And I think we need more of that with our young people in general, and we need more of that with our young athletes.
Yeah, if you look at Jordan, the other half of that too is they've got to be open to take the guidance. You know, if you look at Jordan, even when his dad passed away, I watched The Last Dance again with my wife. She actually didn't watch it back during the pandemic, so it was like watching it all over again, and she really enjoyed it. But the part that kind of struck me was not only was Jordan really close with his dad and listened to the advice and took it all in, he was also really close with his coaches, you know, especially going back to UNC with Dean Smith. He was there to take guidance, but then even also after his dad passed, he had his, the bodyguard, or kind of like the retired police officer, Chicago police officer,
that was always with him. Yeah.
Was always with him. So he was always looking for a mentor. And I think that's really important for young people to understand. It's okay, you know, you got to be able to lean on a mentor or two along the way. It makes a huge difference. You know, if you know everything and you're bad to the bone, you know it all, then, you know, there's going to be some hard lessons probably if you can't take any sort of guidance. So,
and I was taught growing up, I don't know what other people are taught, but I was taught anybody that's older than you, this is how we were taught, Dustin. Anybody that's older than you talking, you're not talking. And you're listening. Now, you can decipher for yourself if that person's giving you useful knowledge for your future, but you're listening. And we were taught to really pay attention to what older people are saying and then respect our elders. So it's almost like a given that, if somebody's taking the time to talk to you, that you're listening to it. Let me ask you a question. This part, we talked about parents and what, we talked about the other side, but think about the Cam Newton situation that just went down. He's at a camp. He's getting into it verbally with adults. I think most of us thought when it first happened, it was children chastising him. These were adults chastising him. What is your take on that? And what do you think of what Cam Newton did?
So I heard about this. He got into a brawl, right?
Yeah.
But how? I don't know the circumstances, though.
Some guys got upset
just
with
like
him.
the brawl.
They're talking back and forth the day before at a game. And supposedly they talk all the time back and forth. You can't do this with me, and your team is trash. And they use other words with each other. So that day, they get into a verbal argument, and then a guy tries to rush Cam physically.
Okay.
And then Cam, the two other guys come to this guy's support, and Cam Newton is basically holding off three people. He has one guy he has one guy to his side. He's holding another guy's hoodie and like pulling his head down so he can't do much. And then he's holding another guy off by looking at him.
Yeah, I think though. Okay, so my mind always goes to, why are you in that situation? Why? We were just talking about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan would never be in that situation.
No,
where he's trash talking with strangers. But if you're Cam Newton, you have millions of dollars to lose. You can be sued. I just saw this on my own team last year. Alvin Kamara gets into a brawl in
I saw the tape on that.
Biggest nightclub.
Mm-hmm.
It's like all it takes for you to make one bad move and you lose. You could lose everything. But you could also. I mean, he was suspended 3 games. You probably lost $1 million or something, or he had to settle out of court, or But it's an expensive mistake. And so for Cam Newton, I would just, if it was my own kid, I'd just be like, hey, look, I always tell, and my wife and I, we talk about it. We have a lot to lose. You don't want to be around people that have nothing to lose. If you're around people that have nothing to lose,
you're around the wrong people.
You don't want to get into a brawl with someone that's got nothing to lose. Those are the last people that you want. I mean, and so that's, I think you just have to be smarter, whether you're our age or you're 20, or Cam Newton.
Totally agree. My elders used to tell me, you don't want to date somebody that has nothing to lose, or even be around people that have nothing to lose, because there's nothing good coming out of that. What I'm happy of, to me, the silver lining in the whole situation is that Cam Newton did not throw a punch. That was the best thing. Yeah. When just looking at that video, you can fault him for a lot of things, but it's good that he did not try to connect with someone. And Dustin, I used to be the kind of person, I tell people this all the time. I never liked any sign of disrespect. So if somebody tried to disrespect me, it was a conversation or something was happening. But with the birth of Junior, I say this all the time, I don't really care what people are talking about now. I could be anywhere doing anything, and somebody says anything to me, and it's just something said, and I just keep moving on with my day. And I think the word is for everybody out there. If you're listening to this, or some young people, or you got somebody in your life that you care about, talk to them, because it's not worth it. And pride, to me, is probably put more people in the cemetery than anything else in this world. Just pride.
Yeah, I've got 4, and my youngest is autistic. And I thought I understood parenting until I had my 4th, and it's completely. It's just added a different perspective. It didn't mean like I didn't know what I was doing for the first 3, but it's just a different style of parenting. But but it also, when you have special needs child, you're thinking about, wow, like I need to be around, like I have to take care of myself.
Yes.
He might be living with us when he's my age.
That's right.
So it changes the game completely. It's kind of like, I don't have time for any sort of a brawl, or, it's like when we do YouTube and there's people in the comments, I'll talk trash to them a little bit sometimes, but it's never going to be that serious for me.
No.
Ever, because I have so many other things that are that are going on that are more important. And I'm not saying that people aren't important, but I'm just saying, like, I have a lot to lose. I have a lot of responsibilities, so that's why it's.
And that's what I go back to. I think we were saying the same thing, like with the birth of Junior, and then Robert came. I started thinking about that too. What am I responsible for? These people are looking for me for some kind of guidance. It's much more than probably any other responsibility that I've had in my life. I love my parents, but my parents have always been older than me. So it's, and I think it just helps you think about something. And I don't think everybody has to have children. I'm not saying that to think about that. That's just my personal story. Because when he was wheeled into the hallway and about to be taken into the room, just looking at his face, I felt completely different. Been completely different since then. So, and I think and I say that because the moral of the story is that once you're an athlete, when I used to play football, I went to war 1 day a week for 4 months. And I think it's hard and you can see in players in the NFL, players in baseball, boxers, you could just name a bunch of people. It's hard to turn that off. It's hard to know that I'm a part of society now and I'm a civilian, really, and I don't do these things anymore. And when you're confronted sometimes, these athletes have to remember that. And I'm, like I said before, I'm glad Cam didn't do anything crazier, because it's not really needed.
It sounds terrible, and it sounds almost like uppity, but the truth is that Cam just has to be careful. Like we were saying, he's a multi-millionaire. He does, he probably should just be hanging out with other ex-athletes mainly. Unfortunately, that's just really the truth. There's going to be people that are taking shots at him, taking jabs at him. And look, I'm not a Cam Newton fan. I'm a New Orleans Saints fan. So I wanted Cam Newton to get sacked on every single play, and he beat us quite a bit, but I have empathy or, sympathy for guys like that, where you're right. They're used to being in this bubble, and then they're all of a sudden not relevant the same way they were in society. They're just another person that used to play football, and so.
Because even my level, when I played ball, my phone rang probably 5 days a week, 6 days a week. Somebody's asking, what am I doing? Where am I about to go? Can they come? You go places. People want you to come in, park here up front, come in here. Let me give you something free to eat. And you got to think, guys, on the NFL level, this is 1,000 times more than that. And so now you go to a place where you talk to some of these retired players, their phone doesn't ring. Nobody's asking for them. You may see them in the autograph show. You may not. Their entire life, as far as notoriety, is totally different. How do you handle that? I don't know if these teams have like post-career counseling for players, but it's most likely needed. People need to understand that, and I think even myself. So, Dustin, I'll tell you this. When I got through playing ball, I didn't watch football for 3 years. I didn't watch any college. I didn't watch any pro. I played against some guys that were in the NFL. So if I was watching it, it was a trigger. If I was watching a game, a linebacker went to the Detroit Lions. If I'm sitting watching a game and I see him, his name was Brian Jordan. I got to turn this game off. Like I can't watch this right now. And then I had to sit down and think, okay, FD, if you're in any other country in a world, you're not playing football. It's an American sport. So you weren't put here to be a football player, right? You assumed that role, and you liked it, so you played the sport. And then I think almost every decent, good player, or even someone on the team, you allow that to become a part of your persona. But then I had to sit down and think again. If I'm not in America, if I'm in Australia, I'm playing probably a totally different sport.
Right.
So it's not me. So my purpose here is not to play football. I must have a purpose for something else. And I was always a thinker anyway, and I had parents that supported that. So, academics was always important to me. What's happening in the classroom from day one was always important to me. So there was like not far to reach and know that I'm also doing this at the same time. I'm not catching up when I realize this. I'm also doing it. And it's been important in my family. People have talked to me about this from day one. So I'm going to go the academic route, job route, start doing other stuff route. And through technology, like we're on right now, on two different ends of the country, we're able to talk about sports and still have a piece of it, but now be in it. And now that I watch sports with Junior or anybody else, I look at the game from a technique standpoint. Like I'm always looking at the line and what builds off of that to the wide receivers and the quarterbacks and how they play and how they throw the ball. I'm looking at that stuff. It's almost like a coach level. I'm not even looking at the game like I played the game.
Yeah.
And that's just the evolution of life. And I wish more athletes could feel that on the other side, because it's not always about dribbling and shooting and the personal side of the game. It's about sometimes taking a step back and realizing there's more to life than just what this is, the cheers and the people and all that.
I think what's tough though is, and whether this is being a professional athlete or college athlete, or even just like a rock star, a lot of the rock stars, a lot of these guys, they came from nothing, so that was like it was the way out. For you, it sounds like you had good role models, you had kind of like academics. There's a lot of guys that, are just trying to get out of their situation. They're trying to get out of their small town, and so they get out and they get to the big lights and everything. And then when it's all over, there is going to be a struggle, because it is kind of like that is the persona that they had to take on to get out of their situation. So, yeah, you're right. I hope that there is kind of that post-career, guidance, or, I'm sure for some there is, and for some, obviously there are struggles. You see it, you see where guys just struggle.
Yep.
It's the way of the world, I guess. It's tough.
Dustin, it's been great having you on here, man.
I appreciate you inviting me, man. This has been great. Yeah, we'll have to do it again sometime, hopefully soon. You have to come on my channel.
Yeah, I'd love to come on your channel and talk again and see what's going on. Chris K says love to have. Thank you very much. Yeah, Golden State, I don't know. I still think they need another player, but we'll see. We'll keep believing. I think OKC is the team to watch this year. We'll see what's up. But Dustin, I have appreciated having you. I know it's late there. I don't want to keep you on too long. I've appreciated having you here. It's always a pleasure. You're a person, man, that I think very highly of you. Always have from day one. You're a very open-minded individual, and I've seen you have conversations with all kinds of people, and I just wish that there was more of that in the hobby, man.
Yeah, it can be kind of cliquey, and unfortunately, but I think for you and I mean, we're obviously just having a great time out here.
Yeah.
I mean, like this is all like bonus time for us. Right. I feel like,
I agree.
So yeah, no, it's been great to catch up with you, and I hope that you're West Coast. I was thinking I'm going to be. I'm East Coast, so like I just went to Culture Collision in Atlanta, but you're too far. If you happen to go to Culture Collision, let me know, because that's kind of one where I'll probably go twice a year. They're doing that twice a year now, September and February. But if not, the National, of course, we'll have to put together.
All right, brother. Dustin, if you're not following Dustin, I believe you are, but if you're not, go follow Dustin, because he has great content. He makes thought-provoking videos about what's happening in the hobby and other things as well. He's a good resource. I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, man.
All right, man.
Good night.
You have a good one.
All right. See ya.
Bye-bye.